What's going on, everyone? Talks with Kenny here. Today we're reacting to a video of gun control's racist history. And I always find it funny that when the Democrats or people claim that the Democratic Party and the Republican Party switched, and then I ask a simple question, hey, if that is true, then why does the Democrats still support the same policies that the KKK supported back in the day when the Democratic Party supposedly was a part of the KKK? No answers for them. Right? Abortion, the KKK was in highly favor of that because Margaret Sanger, founder of the Planned Parenthood, she was a racist. She believed that black people were weeds in society and that they needed to be extinguished, right? Eugenicists, right? People who are incapable of taking care of themselves, and that's the image that she had of black people, that they had no ability to take care of themselves, so they shouldn't exist. That was, if you want to hear more about that, I think there's a book called The Negro Project that explains this in great detail. But you think the KKK will support that or not support that? I'll wait. But because allegedly KKK vote with the Republican Party, allegedly that makes the Republican Party racist. But by that same logic, then you're supporting policies that KKK was pushing when they were more prominent in the past. Does that make the Democratic Party racist? Yeah, you guys decide that on your own. But let's get into it. This is a video from Colion Noir. I'm a big fan of his. Let's get into it.
Here's a little history for you. Gun control in America is rooted in racism. That's right. The modern gun control movement is just today's version of the exact policies used to keep firearms out of the hands of freed slaves after the Civil War. Like we showed you last episode, gun control doesn't harm the powerful, connected, protected people who push for it. It's always been about controlling a segment of the population. And what better way to maintain dominance over an ethnic group than to ensure they're disarmed?
Yeah, well, I'm waiting to hear the arguments, you gun control advocates. I know y'all going to come in here and say, oh, you were watching a video from the NRA. Of course you're going to say stuff like that. But all I care about is it factual or not? That's all I care about. And that's my thing, because that was one of the reasons why the KKK pushed so hard not to have black people be considered as citizens, because they were scared of the fact that they'll have the right to bear arms. That was the main reason why they were against black people's civil rights, because they knew they couldn't terrorize black people anymore if they had the right to bear arms. That's just my take. And essentially you guys are doing the same thing, because when people who are pro 2A like I am tell you guys, hey, you're making a trade-off here. If you take guns off the street, sure, you lower gun deaths, but you increase the frequency of crime. You increase other areas that it affects other areas that increase as well. So are you willing to have more crime just to lower gun deaths? Yes or no? That's the answer. If you're pro 2A, hey, there's certain risk and trade-offs that comes with being pro 2A. More gun deaths. And most of the gun deaths are due to suicide and homicide. Either self-inflicted, which is, I agree, I think that's a mental health issue, suicide, and then homicide, which is usually who perpetrates homicide, a law-abiding citizen or a criminal. So there's no valid reason to really try to restrict gun ownership. And we all know all these mass school shootings, they only target one specific group: public school. Why? Public school is a gun-free zone. That means that you make them prime targets. They don't do this to private school. It could happen. Sure, we could play possibility, but what's the probability though? Every school shooting or happen in public areas where guns are not allowed. Malls, grocery stores, schools especially. But they keep gun control advocates want gun-free zones. They want, end of the day, if there's no one there to enforce the law, who's going to stop the criminal? Remember, 5 minutes. It takes 5 minutes. That's the fastest the police can get to the scene of the crime. So that means in 5 minutes, you're a sitting duck. That's a lot of damage a school shooter or a mass shooter can do in 5 minutes. This is why I'm so pro 2A. And even legally, police don't have the right. They're not obligated to actually protect you. But hey, I digress. Let's continue into the video.
Don't believe me? Keep watching.
Gun control has absolutely nothing to do ideologically with the control of firearms. If you do even a most cursory look at history between guns and gun ownership, you will find that without question, gun laws were created to restrict gun ownership from certain classes of people.
Long before the revolution, long before the drafting of the Second Amendment, laws were passed in the various colonies in what is now the United States to take away guns from minorities.
The first gun control laws in America start in 1620 in Virginia, when the legislature enacts a law saying don't let black people have guns. And that's been sort of the key theme of American gun control for centuries ever after.
In the famous Dred Scott opinion, Justice Taney makes it clear that one of the reasons blacks should not be treated as equal citizens is that if they are, they will enjoy the right to keep and bear arms wheresoever they go.
And that's mainly I think that's the primary motivation for all these gun control advocates is fear. They fear that people will have access to these guns. And I think it's also due to our culture as well, that we no longer trust each other anymore. Because back in the day, we all had a common foundation, a common belief system, a common moral code that we all were kind of camaraderie into, right? We all believed in the same things. We all saw America the same way. So it was easier to trust your fellow countrymen. In America now, we're divided. No one believes in there's half of the country believes in America, half of the country don't. There's all this division. So now people are seeing as like, nah, I don't want my enemies to be armed. That's how gun control advocates look at people who are very pro 2A. They don't see us as, oh, you're just a countryman that believes something differently. A lot of the times they see us as, oh, you're a potential mass shooter. That's how they see us. When statistically, all the mass shooters has been what? Young boys raised by single moms. All of them. Every mass shooter so far came from a single mother household. I'm just saying, if you want to make the distinction, all of them are white and male, okay, I can make that same distinction. All of them came from single mothers. If not all, most of them. So like, if you want to play the correlation equals causation game, we can play it the same way too. Conservatives focus more on, hey, mental health. Hey, how can we prevent these issues from happening again? And the left and the gun control advocates, they're more reactive. Like, how can we stop this from happening? But you can't really stop anything from happening, really. You want to ban machine guns, but machine guns only account for 4% of gun deaths. Mass shootings don't happen frequently. Instead of arming people to protect themselves, like, hey, teachers should be armed, or allow teachers the ability to bring personal firearms into the school premises. People are gonna be like, no. Fearful people will be like, no. Then the teachers are going to use the guns. What's stopping the teachers from doing it now? That's my take. What's stopping a teacher from going to public school right now and holding the school hostage with a gun? There's nothing. There's nothing stopping the teacher from doing that. Just like there's nothing stopping a school shooter, a young boy school shooter, coming in and shooting up the place too. Right? If you want to play devil's advocate. So even though the teachers have the capacity to do it, the teachers don't do it. So instead of trusting law-abiding citizens to make correct decisions on behalf of other people, you rather leave that malicious school shooter. And I don't think that's a valid solution to this problem. But I digress. Let's continue.
It wasn't that they said the Second Amendment doesn't apply to these people. It was they're not considered people. Because if they're considered people, they would have the right to own firearms.
Even though the slaves were freed by the 13th Amendment, some states still prohibited black people from being armed.
And so you get a whole spate of state-level laws, either explicitly barring African Americans from enjoying their civil rights, or doing so cleverly. For example, by restricting what guns are available, maybe to those who served in the Confederate Army. Well, we all know who served in the Confederate Army and who didn't. You do the math.
It was designed as a tool, in the words that they used, to prevent any reprisals against former slave owners.
You know, America's first domestic terrorist organization was the Ku Klux Klan.
And individuals who were probably local government officials who would ride on horses throughout the black community to discourage people from not only owning firearms, but from also engaging in other civic duties such as voting.
I can't think of anything more simplistic than the idea of How do you terrorize a group of people who are armed? You really can't.
That's plain and simple, right? And this is the primary argument for why people are pro 2A. But the gun control advocates, they want to dismiss that concern. They're like, oh, that you're overreacting, whatever. We see the power government can do. We see how, like, you see government colluding with social media companies to control a narrative that challenges their establishment. You see what they're doing. How you know they won't use that power to enforce draconian laws on you guys, knowing that, oh, there's no recourse. You guys have no recourse to fight back against us. You don't realize there's more people here than the military. There's 400 million people here in the U.S. There's more guns than people in this country. And you think, oh, like the law enforcement can do something like enforce laws that's draconian if all these citizens were armed? No, they wouldn't. They have to meet and negotiate with us in the middle. They can't just at the bullet of a gun tell us what to do. And that's the point of having the 2A. This is why it's a right that's enshrined in our Constitution. This is why you got all these leftists wanting to destroy the Constitution. They want to destroy the country and rebuild it in their image, when the Constitution is there to stop you from just transforming the country. The Constitution is there so you reform the country, not trying to destroy it and transform it into something else. This is why when I get people trying to compare us to Australia, oh, why can't we ban all guns like Australia did? We're not the same size as Australia. I don't know how many people Australia has. Let me know in the comment section how many people that Australia have, but I know it ain't 400 million people. I know that. I digress. Let's continue.
So what do? You do everything in your power to disarm them in every way.
If you read Ida B. Wells in the 1890s, she makes it very clear that the men who got away from the lynch mobs were the men who were armed. And in fact, she says that a Winchester rifle should hang in pride of place in any Afro-American home.
You can't lynch people who are armed. You can't burn crosses in the yards of people who are armed. So they really worked hard to make sure that blacks who were free couldn't buy and own firearms, because then they could defend themselves.
It's underreported, but we all know Rosa Parks for her bravery on the bus. But Rosa Parks used to sit on her porch with her grandfather with a shotgun in her hands in case the Klan came onto her property and attempted to kill her and her family purely because they were black.
Our history is that we have always utilized and exercised our right to bear arms because it's been life or death.
So the 14th Amendment came along after the 13th and said, these rights belong to everybody.
And yeah, I want to say America was founded on racism. Come on, bro. Yeah, y'all like to play narratives. I don't play narratives. I observe. Hey, let me look at the Constitution. I look at the literal paper of the Constitution. We all are created equal. Okay. The only thing that was different is the perception, public perception. They didn't apply the law equally. They didn't live up to the principles of the Constitution. That's my point. Humans are flawed. Humans can perceive a thing. Oh, this law doesn't technically count to them because they're not people. Remember? That's a perception argument. You convince yourself that black people aren't people, and this is why the law doesn't apply to them. But the Constitution didn't say that. The Constitution said all men are created equal. Every American citizens deserve all these rights. African Americans were realized, slaves were realized as citizens of America. Therefore, they're entitled to the same rights. Simple. The only argument is going on is not the actual paper, because at the end of the day, I'm looking at the evidence. I'm like, yeah, how you say America was founded on racism when the very thing that the country was founded on was used to free slaves, to give rights. Like, yo, I don't get it. And they want to keep pushing this narrative that somehow KKK votes for the Republican Party. I don't care what the KKK do. I don't know what the KKK do. I'm not around people who are associated with the KKK. It seems like to me the Democrats are associated with the KKK. That's how they know KKK vote Republican, because they're around KKK members. I don't know. You let me know. All this seems to be is founded on assumptions. Like Democrats just assume, oh, we're the good guys. Of course, it has to be that the KKK voted Republican. Come on, bro. Let's stop the games. This is what I'm saying. This is not political rhetoric, bro. Facts. History. This is real history. I just want to know if they're lying or not. They're not lying? Okay. Then they got some truth. But you got to understand No, bro. No, I don't want to hear your rhetoric, bro. Just give me the facts of the matter. And if you want to make the argument that the party switched or all that, okay, why the Democrats are still supporting the same policies that the KKK was pushing in their time of provenance? You got to answer me that way. Riddle me that way. I digress. Let's continue.
And you can't do this on the basis of, well, we got a state law that says you can't arm newly freed slaves.
When a criminal starts misusing me, I am going to use whatever is necessary to get that criminal off my back.
What is there to prevent a group such as the Black Panthers from walking right into the governor's office?
As of today, very little. We hope to improve that situation in the next couple of days.
All the way up until the 1968 gun law, you have basically attempts to disarm black people.
The 1968 Gun Control Act is an attempt to stop poor people from buying guns, poor people who were disproportionately black.
So you have these laws that were written in a race-neutral way, but were in fact aimed only at black people and enforced only against black people.
You have no right to take my gun away from me. You don't know the Constitution, right?
Sure we do. We're well aware of the Constitution.
The so-called Saturday night special bans. These firearms, although they did not have fine workmanship and that they were inexpensive, they were still available to be used to defend yourself and to defend your home. And one of the most interesting things about these laws that were put on the books to discriminate against black people is that these are the common anti-gun laws that politicians this very day in the year 2016 try to adopt and to prevent certain people from owning a firearm.
Persons wishing to purchase ammunition first acquire a permit, then pass an extensive background check.
So that's my thing. All right, and then anyway, what black people neighborhoods? There's a theory out there. I forgot where I saw this article at, but the concept was more guns, less crime, and the argument was that the more gun ownership there was in a community, the less crime that community experienced. And in my view, empirical evidence will tell you that's probably true, right? If you take one neighborhood and you take another neighborhood, one neighborhood, you know, they're strapped to the 9, Pro 2A. You see Pro 2A signs on every house, and another community, all these gun control advocates, they say, oh, no guns in this house. If a criminal had to rob a house, which community would he go to do it? Obviously, the community that has less gun owners by the comparison to the other one, right? And I think there's stats out there. I think black people own the least amount of guns, and you can see that correlation in the experience. They're high purported victims of crime, and they commit a large components of crime. Look at Chicago. Chicago is a perfect example of this. The criminals are terrorizing law-abiding black people in Chicago neighborhoods, shooting around. Bruh, it's unfair advantage. And the Chicago police, 5 minutes, remember 5 minutes? That's the fastest time that a cop can show up at the scene of the crime. By then, they already left. They already did their business and they're gone. And a life was lost. But no one wants to talk about that. I bet you if they had a more lenient gun control laws and actually allowed these working class people in the black community, in these poor communities, to be able to defend themselves, there'll be less crime. At least give them the ability to defend themselves. But I digress. Let's continue.
And it requires gun owners to present themselves to police for a background check, photographing, and fingerprinting.
So, yeah, I think there's a racist component in the existing gun control movement, but they don't say that openly because you can't say things like that.
And so the more that people in my community have heard about our history and know about our history, the more that gun control has been shown and proven to be racist policies that have continued to keep people in our community down.
Maj Toure, I think I said his name. I feel like I always mispronounce this guy's name. Maj Toure, I think that's how you say it. He's a big advocate of this. He points this out all the time. Black Guns Matter. I think that's his movement thing he's starting. He's teaching people, black people specifically, how to arm and use a gun. I fully agree what he's doing there. What you guys say? This is why we always claim, black conservatives always claim that Republicans have the better policy. Because at the end of the day, Republicans' platform is do for self. Yeah, y'all do it. We don't want to do nothing for y'all. Y'all do it for yourselves. We're just going to enable you. Hey, you want to take care of yourself? You want to pay for your own health care? You want to pay for your own life insurance and all that stuff? You don't want the government in your business? Good. We're going to cut the taxes, give more of the tax money to you, and you do it. So we could sit there and worry about things that only we could do, which is foreign affairs, protect our borders, enforce our laws. That's all the Republicans want to do. They want to sit there and just be able to maintain the system. They don't want to do nothing for you. They want to empower you to do for yourself. And if you want it, you do it. Here's the opportunity. If you take advantage of the opportunity, that's on you. We don't want to be held responsible for anything that happens in your life. We give you as much opportunity for you to decide that for yourself. We're not here to try to baby you and be your parent. And I think black people, we need to go that route, because 50 years we've been voting 90% plus Democrat, and what you got to show for it? I'll wait. More of the same. Single motherhood rise since the 1960s, been rising. Now you're at 76% single motherhood. Crime has risen along that same trajectory in the black community. And what y'all been doing? Y'all all been voting Democrat. But when y'all was conservatives, Republicans, whatever, y'all was better well off. Y'all was mostly married, 80% married. Y'all experienced less poverty. Sure, you wasn't as rich as the white people, but y'all wasn't starving, dying, or anything. Pro-family, when we were conservatives, when Black America was more conservative, bruh, we were flourishing. We're on our way to be where the Asians at least. Now look, end of the day, that's decisions. Look, black people. Hey, I ain't putting this on no one. Ain't the Democrats' fault. Ain't the Republicans' fault. It's the black community's fault. The black community made a decision. They chose it. That's it. You chose to be a single mother. You chose to pick the government over your father of your children. Hey, you made your bed. You lay in it. But now it's to recognize, hey, your bed's messy. It's time to fix it. It's time to clean it up. And that's your responsibility. That's our responsibility. That's why I'm saying the black community needs to look inward, not outward, not trying to point fingers. Oh, is this thing's fault? It's the gun's fault. How's the gun fault for taking out Takeoff? The gun didn't walk legs and shot Takeoff. A black man came and shot Takeoff. Ain't the gun's fault. The gun's a tool. It would have been any different if the guy stabbed Takeoff, or hit him with a hammer, or ran him over with a car. It don't matter. If the intent to kill is there, it don't matter what means they do it by. It ain't the tool's fault. It's the person's fault. People kill people. That's the bottom line. But people want to blame a gun like as if it has some magical demonic power that if you touch a gun, you become a mass shooter or something. It's ridiculous. But then they want to call people conspiracy theory because they have an alternative take on events. But hey, I digress. Let's continue.
I don't by any stretch of the imagination believe that gun control has kept the black community safe. And the reason why I don't believe that is the same reason why I don't think gun control has kept the white community safe. It just doesn't keep anyone safe. If I'm a single parent mother and I can't afford a car, I have to take the bus. Not only that, I have to work 2 jobs. So I'm coming home late at night, 2-3 o'clock in the morning by myself. I'm getting paid in cash. People know I'm getting paid in cash. So now I have to get on the bus and then have to get off the bus at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and then walk home in a bad, shitty neighborhood, knowing that people know that I have cash on me? Come on, man.
There's a reason why in Chicago now we're seeing a record number of minorities inside the most violent neighborhoods applying for their concealed carry permits to finally try and put an end to criminals running their streets.
Why would you limit someone's ability to protect themselves in that environment? I just don't get it.
Because they want these people to stay in fear. They want black people to stay fearful. Because the only time Democrats get into power is in times of fear. We saw it in 2020. Everyone was fear of COVID. Biden positioned himself as some great unifier. He's going to come unite the nation. Vote for me. And people did. And look what we got. We're still fearful. Now we're fearful of other things this time. Now we're no longer fearful of COVID. We're fearful of a recession coming. Economy is about to go down the tubes. The cost of living keeps increasing day to day. You trade one fear for the other. Now I think America, we need to walk in faith. Hey, let's try something new. Let's stop staying within our comfort zone and voting in the more popular people when the popular people is who put us in this mess in the first place. And that's a jab at the people that made Joe Biden the most popular president in U.S. history. And this always validates my take. Just because it's popular doesn't mean it's right, or it doesn't mean it's good. But I digress. Let's continue.
In 2010, when the Second Amendment was finally incorporated to the states, as was the intention of the 14th Amendment in the mid-1860s, it was a black man, Otis McDonald, who brought the case.
There were so many people in the city, so many people in the state that's being victimized by gun laws that only apply to the law-abiding citizens.
Well, that's the biggest argument. Oh, no gun control advocate I have ever met has been able to debunk this. All they keep using is emotional rhetoric, semantic arguments. Oh, what if your coworker went crazy and he comes in with a gun and shoots everybody? How likely is that to happen? And if he did, I bet you there's other people who are not crazy that has a gun. They'll be able to stop him because how you stop a criminal with a gun? With someone else with a gun. That's it. Police, same way. Police come and show up to the scene. What they got strapped on them? A gun. Come on, force with force, equal and opposite. But hey, I digress. These gun control advocates, they're so naive. They think that humans are like good by nature or something. No, humans are flawed, and you have to keep each other in check, right? There's a reason why if you don't have the ability to say no, people, no matter how nice they are, they're going to take advantage of you, unless you set a boundary, and that's what gun control advocates miss. That's the point they miss. They miss that reality because they live in la la land. They think everyone's good. But I digress. Like criminals are going to follow the law. There's a reason why they're criminals, because they broke a law, and they have to be held accountable. Who's going to hold them accountable? Someone who's going to enforce the law, whether that be a cop or in a more direct and more immediate response, a private citizen whose rights are being infringed upon. You break into someone's house, you're violating their rights. Period. So if they decide to defend themselves, because I live in Florida, we have I think it was called the Castle Doctrine. Bruh, if I shoot you, bruh, and you're in my house, bruh, you broke in. You already broke the law. I already have evidence you broke the law. I ain't break my own door. You did. Come on. But, I'm harsh. Oh, you're harsh. Shame on you. You think criminals should die. No, but I believe in accountability. I believe that people should have the right to defend themselves, right? If a crusader came in and he hate gay people and he broke into a gay man's house, I'm all for that gay man to shoot that man until he's dropped dead, bro. Because you ain't gonna, you're not gonna victimize people, and that's what we want. We want law-abiding citizens to have the ability to fend for themselves, at least until help gets here. Remember, 5 minutes. A lot of damage could be done in 5 minutes. That's how long it takes for law enforcement to show up on average. But hey, you want to keep doing this, bruh. I live in reality, man. You better come with facts, and you better live in reality too. Don't give me this possibility bullcrap. I'm asking about probability. What's the probability something's gonna happen? That's what I'm looking for. But all y'all focusing on gun death, but y'all ain't focusing on the trade-offs that's gonna happen when you remove guns out of when you remove the people's ability to arm themselves with guns. You open up another can of worms. But they like to dismiss points that they can't properly deal with. But I digress. Let's continue.
How can that be right? It can't be right.
Great guy. I consider him one of my personal heroes. Someone who lived in an urban environment. In his case, we're talking about the city of Chicago. He's been there for a while and was a fixture. And he just realized that it was not safe.
McDonald says his neighborhood has changed, more crime. He's been broken into 3 times, and he's long since concluded that the gun ban is a bust.
The gangbangers and drug dealers were taking over my neighborhood. They were taking over me, literally, and I was being threatened.
I live in a bad environment. I want a gun to protect myself, but the laws in this place won't let me do that.
And he had to fight Lisa Madigan and everybody else in Chicago for that right to do it. He's a civil rights hero, and he gets none of the accolades for being such.
We had to go to court for that. We had to go to the Supreme Court to let somebody...
Look at the narrative control. Black history, I never heard of that, man. Imagine that. Oh, I imagine a man who fought for the right for black people to defend themselves, to not be terrorized by their same group of people. Imagine that. It's always us, right? It's always us. You ain't gonna hear no black liberal pointing this out. And this is why I'm saying, y'all can't come here and calling me Uncle Tom, Uncle Coon, all this stuff. But y'all denying reality. Ain't you shoe shuffling, the black liberal? Ain't you doing the same thing you're accusing me of doing? Because I'm pointing out facts. These are facts. This is historical facts. But you like this. You want to get one narrative, one side of the argument. Now you're hearing the other side of the argument, and you don't like what you're hearing. Now you want to call me names. I'll call you names too if I didn't have the facts on my side. But hey, I digress.
They own a gun in their own house to protect themselves because they live in a bad environment. That had to go all the way to the Supreme Court. Where in the world does that make any sense?
The racist roots of gun control have been so well hidden by the mass media and public education system that you've probably never heard any of that before. But it's the truth. The tender-hearted do-gooders of the contemporary movement are still serving that same racist end. This isn't a minor, uncomfortable truth about American gun control. It's the one fact that discredits the movement entirely.
Ooh, entirety. She said, discredit y'all. Y'all got no facts on your side. Look, to me, that's what I'm saying. I don't care. I can't judge the intention of something. I can't judge your intentions. Oh, our intentions is we're trying to make safer communities. We're not trying to let people die at the hands of guns. And then I'm like, yo, if you take this gun, what's going to stop bad people from doing the same thing without a gun? They'll just use a knife. They'll use a different tool to replace that gun. The gun is not the problem. That's what people are trying to argue. But, you know, these gun control advocates, they don't want to hear it. But, hey, I digress. Let me guys know what you think in the comment section below. Agree, disagree with the take? Hey, give me your thoughts. I would like to hear them. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.